Coach Natalie, and welcome to another episode of Jiu Jitsu for Dummies. Today we're going to learn the armbar from two positions, triple threat, and the S mount. And today is a really good reason why it's best sometimes to work with a dummy, because both these positions can be pretty painful if you're actually working with a real human partner. So let's check it out. Again, from another perspective. Triple threat armbar is one of the earlier submissions taught to beginners in Jiu Jitsu, so we'll start with that first. In general, in Jiu Jitsu, it's always best to have your opponent voluntarily give you a limb. While you could try to pull it from them, wrest it from them, it's best to encourage them to voluntarily give you a limb. In this case, most people on the bottom who know what you're going to be doing are going to really be holding their elbows in, protecting their neck. They're not going to ever voluntarily give you an arm, have it floating around loosely in space. So what I want to do is encourage my partner, Sally, my dummy here, to give me her arm. Let's just say this is the arm that I want to arm bar. Well, what I'm going to do is I'm going to set up a ruse. I'm going to make Sally here think that I'm going to be attacking her this arm and putting it into an Americana. Now, an Americana is a move that we discussed in a previous lesson. If you haven't seen that lesson, that's what Americana is. What I'm going to do is threaten the Americana. Now, Sally, she was a real human being and really cared about her arm. What she would be doing is turning to her side and putting this arm to this arm and holding her hands together so that I couldn't Americana this arm. That's great. What she's doing is she's putting this arm here. This is the arm I actually want to threaten with an arm bar. As soon as she moves over, I let up slightly. I don't sit on her very tight. I actually want her to turn over. She's holding on to both hands. Great. We're going to get into a position we call triple threat in here. I'll show you what it looks like here. This is your basic triple threat position. I believe it's called a triple threat because you have one foot holding in their stomach, you have another knee right behind their head, kind of like a pillow, and then you're probably threatening this top arm here. So She's holding on to both hands, thinking about this arm, but really, like I said, this is the arm we care about. As soon as I can, I'm sitting on top of her, kind of like a log, if you were somewhat straddling a log. This arm underhooks this elbow, elbow to elbow here, and I grab onto my own gi. If this was a non-gi situation, I could just grab onto my own arm or shoulder, that kind of thing. But since I'm wearing a gi, why not? This hand is going to go right in front of her stomach. It actually gives me a little bit of stability, because what I'm going to do is now take this remaining leg and put it over her head, like this. Last thing I'm going to do, get down on the ground. I'm going to have one hand on her elbow, one hand holding her wrist, and making sure that her elbow is above my groin. I'm going to pinch her arms with my knees and slowly rise up until I have the armbar. You can see it a little better from the side here. Again, I'm on the mount. I really want this arm, but let's say Sally's really strong. Let's just say I really can't pull it. Be best to have her voluntarily give it to me. So again, I'm going to feint the Americana. Sally's going to be like, no, I'll save you. And she'll come over, probably connect both of her hands together. As she's turning over, I rise up to let her do so, and immediately, again, get the triple threat position. Heel in front of her stomach, other knee behind your head, kind of like a pillow, because we're really helpful that way. And I'm going to underhook her arm, my elbow to her elbow, and I'm going to be holding on to my own gi top. Hand in front of her stomach. That lightens the load on this remaining leg so I can put it over her head. Now, notice that I want to be as close to as I can to her, because you cannot do an armbar unless her elbow is above my crotch. If her elbow was between my crotch and my knees, there would be no elbow, or there would be no armbar there. So in any case, one hand holding the elbow, one hand holding the wrist, pinching both knees together, and slowly raise up, tap, tap. Now, there are a few mistakes, as I've just pointed out, that you can make. There are sometimes people who feel that when you're in the triple threat position, that you might want to underhook with the south hand. But then you're putting a lot of your weight, I feel, over the north end, and this is really where I need to be getting this leg over her head. So all things being equal, I feel like when you're in this position, underhook with the north hand and reach south. Second, related to that, again, when you are on the bottom, you really want to make sure that your butt is not too far away from your partner. You really want to have your butt as close as you can to your partner. That also makes sure that the elbow is above your crotch, which makes sure that the elbow is in the proper position. Two more things. You don't want to just secure the arm by the wrist because they may have a very flexible arm and might be able to escape. I feel it's best to hold on to the elbow and then to the wrist. And then if this was a real person, their thumb would be coming out the top here. In general, when you armbar, you always want to make sure that the thumb is pointing towards the ceiling. It's, like I said, kind of hard to tell with the dummy, but if you had a real human partner to try this on, you'll know that that means that the wrist is pointing in the proper orientation. One more time. You're on the mount. This is the arm that you want to armbar. I'm going to set up a diversion. I'll start pretending I want to do the Americana. Now, if she doesn't defend against the Americana, I will finish with the Americana because why not? You're already in that position. But most beginners, at least, will recognize that they're in danger. So they're going to get to their side so that they can connect up both of their hands. At that same time, I rise up, let them turn. They think they're escaping, but I'm just letting them escape. So that's the secret just between you and me. Get into the triple threat. One foot in front of the stomach, one leg behind the head, underhook with your north hand, elbow to elbow, grab your own gi top. Take your other hand, put it in front of their stomach, which lightens up this last leg over their head. Gently get down to the ground. Do not start working on the armbar until you're on the ground. People have a wide range of flexibility, and if you start armbarring them while you're still falling to the ground, they may tap before you get to the ground, and you won't be able to immediately stop. Versus if I'm settled, pinching the arm with my knees, securing the arm with the elbow and the wrist, going backwards. They may be tapping now, if not, probably tapping at that point. But you always want to be able to immediately stop as soon as they tap. And that's what leads to the safety of our gentle art. Now, a related armbar is, instead of triple threat, we have a position called the S mount. Again, this is a position that can be kind of painful to do on a real human partner, mostly because you're sitting right on their torso with a Jiu Jitsu dummy. You can practice this all you'd like. Again, it's based on the idea that it's better to encourage your partner to give you a limb rather than trying to force it. Each of these moves is based on you knowing what the reaction is going to be to your attack. And then you actually take advantage of that attack. You start one attack to take advantage of the reaction. Again, I'm on my dummy here. Now most Jiu Jitsu players, as I said, are going to be holding their arms, crossing them to keep their elbows in to protect their neck. That's great. That's fine. Let's say Sally here, she knows what's up. She's protecting herself. I'm going to reach in underneath her crossed arms, and I'm going to be grabbing her lapel. Now, if you saw the lesson that we have published about the paper cutter, this is the paper cutter choke in action. Reaching in without her arms, so you can see what I would be normally doing is grabbing her lapel right here and putting my forearm right to the floor. Now, it's a very painful choke, and so she would normally be loosening her arms to try to start fighting off this forearm. That's actually the reaction that we wanted. So I'm reaching in, turning it around, knuckles down. I'm going to be doing a paper cutter. Now, if she doesn't stop the paper cutter, I'll end up doing it. But that's really just a setup. So, her arm was here. I'm doing the paper cut. She is now, if her arm is tight to her chest, she is now moving her arm to start to try to fight my forearm, which is great. Really what I want to do is I actually want this arm right here. I want, as soon as I can, I want to shuck it forward. I actually want to hold down her elbow with my torso, and that helps trap that arm. And then what I'm going to do is cut to the near side over here. So here, tight, paper cutter, she loosens that arm, I tighten it, and I'm going to get into this position. Now, the setup is kind of like the triple threat. What I'm going to do is first take this hand and put it in front of her face. I don't want her to roll out. Second, what I'm going to do, grab this far elbow. I want the back of my knee to be behind her underarm as tight as I can. Now, this may depend on your individual flexibility, but you know, try to make it as tight as you can. Now, my south arm is underhooking this top arm here, but just like in the triple threat, I'm now going to switch hands and do this. This again. Change positions. Again, she has an arm here. Maybe she's got both arms. She's keeping her elbows in, trying to protect her neck, but still leaving it somewhat open. Paper cutter, as we've talked about in the past. This is just to get her to loosen this arm to start trying to defend against this forearm here. So, she starts to move it. I get behind her elbow just to trap it. And as soon as I do that, I try to get behind her. I really want her elbow to be kind of between my two legs. Now, hand right here in front of her head allows me to post a little bit. So, I'm going to grab the other arm, immediately put the leg behind this arm. Now, with my legs going this way, you can kind of see why it is in an S shape. Instead of my arm being here, here, here. Again. The two mistakes that people might make, which are unique to the S mount is first, remember, you want to put your hand close to your dummy's head or your partner's head. It keeps them from moving that head out to escape. The second move that's unique to the paper, to the S mount, is the idea that you are going to have your leg right behind your dummy's arm. You want it to be here or up or whatever. You really want to be trap it here, again. Then this starts to look identical to the triple threat. Once I'm down on the ground, then I can finish securing. Wrist, elbow, pinch the legs with my two knees, and slowly go for the submission. As I said when I first started this lesson, there are sometimes benefits to working with a dummy. As I said, these, especially when you're working with someone who's a lot smaller than you, sitting on their chest in S mount can be pretty painful to them, but with a obliging dummy like Sally here, or your own training partner, you can practice this as much as you want. So, I hope you enjoyed learning these two arm bars from the mount, the triple thread and S mount. I would encourage you to follow my Facebook page, Natalie Jiu Jitsu. If you have something you want me to teach, I'd love to hear it. And thank you again for joining me for another episode of Jiu Jitsu for Dummies.